It began with a faint ripple on a thermal surveillance monitor, a flicker of heat that didn't belong. To the operators of Ukraine's 79th Air Assault Brigade, who had spent months mastering battlefield detection, the anomaly snapped their focus instantly. Within seconds, the system confirmed it. A Russian armored convoy was advancing. It was large, disciplined, and moving with unmistakable intent. This wasn't a patrol. This was a breakthrough attempt. Engines roared. Infrared silhouettes stacked tightly, and the formation pushed toward Ukrainian lines with a determination that hinted at fresh reinforcements and desperate command pressure. Alarms chimed in the command post. Officers rushed in, drone pilots sprinted to their stations, and AI-assisted reconnaissance feeds stitched together a live picture of the battlefield. The convoy's size alone signaled danger, but its direction made it worse. They were heading straight toward a sector fortified with sensors, FPV launch teams, and pre-registered strike zones. The Russians didn't know it yet, but they were crossing into one of the most lethal stretches of defended terrain in the region. Within minutes, commanders analyzed the grim reality. The Russian convoy was not only large, it was unusually aggressive. But unbeknownst to them, this sector was layered with a multidimensional surveillance net. Thermal optics, acoustic sensors, AI-driven movement trackers, and multiple standby drone squads ready for deployment. As the Russian columns pushed further into the open field, they inadvertently exposed themselves to every angle of reconnaissance. Every tank, every turret rotation, every movement was logged in real time, building a digital map of targets that Ukrainian operators would soon exploit with merciless precision. Inside the command room, the growing convoy stretched deeper into the trap. Every meter they advanced tightened the noose. And as Ukrainian FPV pilots positioned themselves, one officer whispered the truth none of the Russians realized. They picked the worst possible day for this. Far from the command bunker, teams of Ukrainian FPV drone pilots were already sprinting to their forward launch points. These were the men who had become legends along the line. Operators trained not just in flying drones, but in hunting tanks with terrifying precision. As they reached their dugouts, crews quickly readied their AI-assisted FPV drones, each loaded with high-explosive charges calibrated to penetrate turret rings, tracks, or engine compartments. Meanwhile, larger reconnaissance drones circled above, feeding pilots real-time positional data. The air buzzed with the sound of rotors spooling up, dozens of them rising into the air, their silhouettes disappearing into the haze. Different drone groups were assigned to separate sections of the convoy, ensuring overlapping zones of attack. As pilots steadied their hands and locked onto their targets, the battlefield went eerily quiet, an unnatural calm, the kind that appears only seconds before a storm breaks. The Russian convoy, still unaware of the aerial predators closing in, continued rolling across the open field. Dust clouds rose behind the tanks, their engines growling in coordinated rhythm. From a distance, it looked like raw, unstoppable power. But from above, the picture was entirely different. The tight spacing made them vulnerable. Ukrainian recon drones observed them, noting one critical detail. The Russians had no active counter-drone systems deployed. Whether due to overconfidence or negligence, the mistake was catastrophic. The convoy lumbered forward, unaware that their biggest threat wasn't ahead. It was already circling above. As drone pilots received the go signal, one chilling phrase echoed across their headsets. Targets locked. Begin the hunt. The first strike came from the northeast, a single FPV drone diving out of the sun. The Russian crew never saw it. A split second later, the drone plunged straight into the lead tank's engine block, erupting in a fireball that shattered the convoy's rhythm. The second strike came immediately after, slamming into the side turret of the next tank. Panic rippled down the line. Turrets swung wildly, but there was nothing to shoot. The drones were too fast, too small, too numerous. Within moments, Ukrainian operators unleashed the second wave, 5 drones attacking from staggered angles, converging like guided arrows. Each hit found a critical weak point. The Russians fired their machine guns into empty sky, hitting nothing. Damaged tanks swerved uncontrollably, colliding with each other and blocking the road. The ambush had begun, and the convoy had no escape. As one Ukrainian pilot whispered, "We're not stopping until that road is nothing but fire." What followed was pure chaos. Tank crews shouted over one another, desperately trying to locate the invisible attackers. Infantry scattered to the sides of the road, some taking cover behind the very vehicles now turning into flaming death traps. Commanders barked orders to accelerate, to break contact, but movement only made things worse. Every attempt to reposition exposed fresh angles for Ukrainian drone pilots. A tank that swerved to evade a strike inadvertently presented its weaker rear armor, and within seconds, another FPV drone slammed into it, triggering an explosion that sent the turret flying several meters into the air. The convoy S-type formation now trapped them in a narrow corridor where each destroyed vehicle blocked escape routes. Smoke thickened. Engines roared in confusion. The ambush was no longer just an attack, it was a psychological collapse. Meanwhile, Ukrainian coordination reached its peak. Recon teams fed real-time updates to FPV pilots, tagging fresh targets with split-second precision. Larger surveillance drones marked command vehicles, ammunition carriers, and any tank that attempted to retreat. The battlefield became a symphony of synchronized destruction. It wasn't just technology giving Ukraine the edge, it was teamwork, discipline, and sheer battlefield intelligence. And as the assault intensified, commanders issued a chilling directive: do not let a single vehicle escape this kill zone. By this point, the Russian convoy had already suffered heavy losses. Tanks at the front were burning wrecks, blocking movement. Those in the rear tried to reverse, but Ukrainian drones simply redirected, hunting them one by one. The Russians tried deploying smoke screens, but it was useless. The drones were guided by thermal imaging. Immobilized tanks became sitting targets. Radio intercepts captured fragments of panicked Russian voices calling for support, but support was too far away. Their armored thrust, meant to break through Ukrainian defenses, had instead become a catastrophic trap. Inside the vehicles, Russian crews faced a nightmare. The heat from surrounding fires turned compartments into ovens. Infantry who dismounted were immediately spotted and marked as targets. One group attempted to flee across an open field, but a cluster of Ukrainian drones descended on them, forcing the survivors back toward the burning wreckage. The convoy had dissolved into isolated pockets of fear. One tank commander tried to rally his formation over radio, but before he could finish his sentence, an FPV drone crashed directly into his vehicle's turret, silencing his command permanently. The assault intensified as Ukrainian drone teams launched their reserve wave, fresh units equipped with heavier charges designed for deep armor penetration. These specialized drones were slower but deadlier. One struck a tank trying to push through debris, detonating inside the hull and igniting its ammunition stores. The resulting blast shook the ground. Another heavy drone hit a vehicle loaded with infantry, and flames erupted instantly. Ukrainian ground commanders monitored the situation, prioritizing command vehicles to sever Russian communication. Once these were destroyed, battlefield coordination for the Russian side collapsed entirely. Russia had hoped to shock the Ukrainian defense. Instead, they had walked into a perfectly coordinated machine of destruction. As the strikes continued, the field transformed into a wasteland of shattered steel. Still, Ukrainian operators remained vigilant. Survivors among the Russian crews attempted to flee on foot, scattering in different directions. They were wrong to think the drones were done. Recon drones tracked their movements effortlessly, flagging each heat signature to the FPV teams. Fresh drones launched, sweeping across the field. Some Russians tried hiding inside wrecks, but thermal vision exposed them. Others crawled through the dirt, hoping to reach a tree line. None made it. Ukraine was determined to eliminate the threat entirely. When the last major tank exploded, Ukrainian ground units slowly advanced. The road was unrecognizable, littered with twisted hulls and scattered debris. Soldiers documented every wreck, logging serial numbers and equipment for analysis. The extent of destruction was staggering. Dozens of armored vehicles lay incapacitated. This victory would reshape the front line for weeks. Commanders reviewed the full operation using the recorded drone footage. Analysts replayed it. identifying where Russian formations had faltered. The results were clear. The combined use of reconnaissance drones, FPV strike units, and AI-guided targeting had produced near-flawless execution. It wasn't just a battlefield victory, it was a demonstration of evolving warfare doctrine. By nightfall, the smoldering wrecks remained like grim monuments to the day's devastation. Drone pilots, exhausted but triumphant, prepared for the next mission. The victory carried immense tactical weight. Russia had attempted a decisive breakthrough. Instead, they walked straight into a meticulously crafted counter-ambush that erased an entire convoy. More importantly, it sent a message far beyond the battlefield. Ukraine's mastery of drone warfare had shifted the balance. No armored column could advance confidently without risking total annihilation. The lesson was clear: technology, precision, and intelligence could overpower brute force. As night claimed the battlefield, Ukrainian units settled into their positions, ready for what came next. Because they knew the enemy would try again. But after today, they also knew that Ukraine was more prepared than ever to crush whatever came their way. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe for more in-depth reports from the front lines.